I'll punish you.
You'd punish me? Like you'd use this stuff on me?
Yes.
Because I'm 50 shades of fucked up.
How has your week been?
Pretty good. I'm feeling good. Been jobless this week. It's been kind of like my own little summer break. It's been fun.
Has been fun. We've been playing a lot of Zelda.
I told my brother this would happen if he bought me the Zelda game. I said, don't buy me the Zelda game. I'm going to become addicted to it. I need to find a job right now. I'm in between jobs right now. If you buy me the Zelda game, I'm going to do nothing but sit on the couch and play Zelda. And here we are. I've done nothing but sit on the couch and play Zelda. I feel like Todd with his rock opera from BoJack.
Oh, a little BoJack reference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been playing a lot of Zelda.
But good news, once I'm done, I'll be done with it. You know? And then
one way to look at it.
And then I can continue my life, you know?
I've been trying to do both.
It's not one of those games that's gonna be updated
it.
or anything. It's just gonna be finished. I'll be done with it, and then I can continue my life.
Yeah, in a month or so maybe. But we've also
been watching
in addition
movies.
to gaming, we've been
a little slow.
Have been watching movies, but we've got stuff to talk about. It was
a
a slower week than usual, but we beefed it up.
We really pushed to get that
yeah.
content for you guys here. We
did
a couple
work hard
back-to-backs
for you.
Yeah, we did a couple back-to-back screenings a few nights in a row.
So this week, the first movie that we're starting with is the John Hughes classic 16 Candles. And I know you have a lot to say about this, so I'll let you take the wheel.
So I'm not actually that crazy about John Hughes. Like, I like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I hated Weird Science. Like, The Breakfast Club was okay. But this one...
John Hughes means a lot to me, personally.
John Hughes means a lot to a lot of people. A lot of white families love John Hughes, okay?
You don't like Home Alone?
I do. I thought Home Alone was good. I think he's a good writer. In terms of writer-director...
I think he's great.
I have mixed feelings. So yeah, 16 Candles was one of those John Hughes films I've never seen, but always, heard about.
It's a real classic, but I feel like not a lot of people are.
It's not as talked about as Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller. Yeah. And the only reason I've seen Weird Science is because my dad's a boomer and he really wanted us to enjoy this in a sleepover, and we didn't enjoy it the way he thought we would.
That's one of those movies that
we're not going to talk
loved,
about Weird
but
Science,
it aged poorly. Yeah. This movie is a movie that also I would say aged pretty poorly.
Yeah, this was honestly, I think most of it's fine, actually.
Yeah.
Except for the one character that sort of felt like Jar Jar's inclusion in the prequels of it didn't need it. I understand you wrote the plot around it.
But did they really? Because he's
not... It was like a party and...
There's no plot. He doesn't drive the plot forward.
In case you wonder what we're talking about, we're talking about Long Duck Dong.
The character in this movie that is... pretty, dare I say, racist, or a racist caricature, right? That's a good way to phrase it.
He's racist. It's a racist character of Japanese people.
Yeah.
Not the actor, the character. I'm actually trying to find the actor's name, hence why I'm got dead air. His name is Gade Watanabe. I hope I didn't butcher that too bad. But we all know and love him from Gremlins 2, The New Batch. If you're a real stan, you'll recognize him immediately as the photographer, journalist guy from Gremlins 2. He's in this film, and it's horrible. I mean, I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a good career boost for him, but it just felt weird because he's the only person that's not totally white in the whole film, and that's his character. Yeah,
he's a big...
He had to do the voice.
Yeah, and everyone's kind of joking on him, and
it's funny when he gets drunk and lands on his face because it's him. It's it
didn't really age super well, but I feel like those parts of the film are honestly they don't move the plot forward.
They're few and they're pretty far between. They're not the most down your throat.
Yeah. Another part of the film that we really didn't like was the. I don't know what I can say on this podcast, but the casual jokes about sexual assault to women.
Yeah, there was specifically
just chatting about
specifically one line between the two main love interests of the film.
I wouldn't say that he's really a love interest, but like the two main guys.
Mike Baker and Jake Ryan.
Yeah.
They're talking, and he says, I could have any girl, my girlfriend's asleep in the room, and I could go violate her 10 different ways if I wanted to. And then the other character says, well, what are you waiting for? He says it with 100% sincerity, and it's just sort of like, okay, we're supposed to be rooting for you? That's harsh. Because then he does end up together with that girl that he was like, well, why don't you go,
that's
fuck
true.
her while she's drunk, passed out. And then they end up together. And it's like, oh, good.
The way that men talk about women in this movie in general is a little bit, very much male-gazy.
It's also John Hughes, though.
I actually feel like the main love interests, Molly Ringwald and Jake Ryan, I like their plot line and their story and them getting together. Even though they don't really, like, you were kind of saying, like, oh, they don't really, like, have a lot of, like, chemistry, but it's really just because, like, they're both pining for each other from a distance up until pretty much the ending.
Yeah.
Which I really appreciate, and
it's a very classic romance in that sort of way, but it does it well.
It works for me.
It does,
Molly
but I think
Ringwald
the other
can do
elements,
no wrong.
The things that make this film unique from other romance films doing similar concepts, deduct from the experience, like the long duck dong, or the casual problematic racism bullying of the 80s. Like some of the bullying they did that kid just because he's younger was like kind of insane. They like glued him in a glass box.
Oh my god, yeah. 80s classic.
It was. How many bags?
I gave it, how many bags did I give it? I gave it 4 bags.
Okay.
I gave it 4 bags.
Yeah, I gave it 2.5. It was okay.
Yeah. I feel like I enjoyed I like, minus the parts that I didn't like, the parts that I did like, I did like.
Good.
Check it out if you haven't watched it already.
Yeah.
Should we move on?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay, next we watched
War Dogs.
The classic 2016 film starring Jonah Hill and Miles Teller.
Yeah.
I didn't just read that off of the
list.
list.
What did you think about this? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
I have completely mixed feelings about this movie. On one hand, I thought like the actual story of this movie was really interesting. I'm pretty sure it's a true story, and that like the whole concept of it is genuinely very crazy and just very crazy to watch. However, and from like a filmmaker's standpoint, this movie, first of all, too long right off the bat, or at least it was paced in a way that made it feel too long to me personally. Second of all, Miles Teller doing the voiceover in this movie really took me out of it because he brought no energy to those voiceovers, and there are a lot of them.
Preferred? He'd been like, so there I was in Czechoslovakia with a gun in my mouth.
Yeah, but I would have liked that better than him being like, there I was in Czechoslovakia with the gun in my mouth. Like, put a little bit at, like, tell us the story if you're going to tell us the story.
I think it's lazy narrator voiceovers.
Yeah, I'm not really,
I think doing the whole, like, omnipotent post tense or past tense narration it kind of
did start with like a record scratch freeze frame. Like he was
very much energy, like and then flashback.
Also like Miles Teller's character in general. Again, this is a true story and these are real people, but we're like genuinely talking. Yeah, based on a true story, based on real people. What we are talking about here is the actors and the characters and whatnot. Miles Teller, well, both of them really, but Miles Teller's character could not be more annoying in my personal opinion.
I thought Jonah Hill's character was kind of the annoying of the two. I'm pretty sure that dynamic was like Miles Teller was the straight guy and Jonah Hill was like the annoying asshole that's ruining everything.
But I feel like Jonah Hill, like, you get who he is in the very beginning of the movie, and Miles Teller, like, I don't know, like, he tries to, like, be
He's
this
less
good
defined.
guy.
He's less of a cartoon.
And he has this girlfriend.
I think Miles Teller's supposed to more represent an in for the audience. Even though it's like they're not necessarily characters you want to be in, he's sort of the viewpoint of like he's just this random guy who's doing whatever, and then he gets this opportunity from this other person.
Yeah,
and
that's
then we
true.
go along with him for the ride up until the very end when they both go crashing down. Spoiler alert.
Should we say what this movie is about, like, at all?
It's based... yeah, I guess we should talk about it, because you were talking about how the plot line...
Yeah.
If you've ever seen Lord of War, it's that movie, but...
I have not.
It's on my list. Basically, it's about the war on terror and how it was just sort of a way for the U.S. government to sort of fund itself and move a lot of money around kind of illegally. And it's just about gun running and the arms deals and the internet age of black market dealings.
Basically, these two guys kind of get involved in this deal where they're selling guns and other things to the U.S. military.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without giving too much of the plot away, because there's more to it than that, but...
Yeah, I mean, there's like a lot going on with like their dynamics and such, but at the end of the day, it's still like it's a gun runner movie.
Yeah.
But I would say it has some interesting dynamics because Miles Teller and Jonah Hill do a good job.
Yeah, they work well together.
They have pretty good energy. But
and I think Jonah Hill brings a lot of energy to his character.
That's kind of where the praise ends for like.
Yeah. Another issue I had with this film was the girlfriend character for Miles Teller, who I don't know, really felt like they just needed to throw a woman in there. I don't really know how else to explain it, but she has
is it better to throw a woman in a script or have a script without a woman?
Well, I think if you're going to put a woman in this kind of film especially, which is about like masculinity
and there's even a line in the film where they say, hey, the reason I love this business is because there's no women in it.
Yeah, like if you're going to make this kind of film and you put a woman in it, you like kind of at least have to like define her as a person, and you can't have her be like the girlfriend character.
She had like a total of screen time. Bradley Cooper had more screen time than her.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper's in this. She has the same conversation with Miles Teller where she's like, hey, don't lie to me about selling drugs or drugs. Don't lie to me about selling guns. And then he's like, okay, I won't. And then he does. And then he comes back and she's like, but you lied to me. Stop lying to me. And then he's like, okay, I will.
They had that same conversation like three
or four times. And I was like, girl, if you do not like move on with your life, get that man out of there, because like, I don't know. It was just crazy that, and I think at the end that she took him back, I'm pretty sure. So. Yeah.
She definitely.
What does that say about society?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably more going on with them as a couple in real life.
There's probably a lot of nuance
it's like
to
kind
this
of
actual
harder
story.
Because like in the film they wanted to keep the pace of what they were going for and not trying to focus on that dynamic, but it's also like you lose out the fleshing of it. So it's like I didn't necessarily miss her character. Like the film wouldn't have been better if I knew about how they fell in love, why she sticks with him, and like I don't
really feel like I need all of that, but like I just kind of feel like she was like,
I don't know what she brought to the film.
Yeah, she didn't bring much besides this like
besides
person
giving like
that was
humanist
representative
grounding responsibilities for the audience's perspective. That was sort of the whole.
And he has a baby that he like doesn't care about too, and that just made me like upset. I don't know if that happened in real life, but anyways.
Again, yeah.
Bradley Cooper is in this, which was kind of a jump scare. But other than that, like it was a fun watch. I didn't like hate it, didn't love it.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't watch again.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the theme for a lot of this week, except for the next one actually. This is a ding 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 stinker of the week.
This is the stink. Well, yeah.
There's no other way to put it. We're just going to get into it. We watched 50 Shades of Grey. And the reason why.
Okay, so it was a my list pick.
Mm-hmm. Why was it on
I'm
your
gonna
list?
say why I put it on my list, and then you'll say why you picked off my list.
Sure.
I've never seen this movie. I've never consumed any of the 50 Shades content, and I've always been like vaguely curious about it just because like it got really popular. Like there's 3 of these movies, but like when it came out in 2015, we were fully children, so I kind of just like forgot about it for a while, and then I was like, oh, that's crazy, those like 50 Shades of Grey movies were like really popular. Never like felt like delving into that content, and I was like, you know what, could be a fun watch one day, so I added it to my list.
Mm-hmm.
And it was picked because
honestly, I'll be real, I didn't know what to watch, and I was kind of curious. It was one of those films that I've always heard about, and I just assumed it was like one of those things that people said was so bad, but it actually wasn't that bad, like Justin Bieber or Taylor Swift. But no, it is actually that bad. But not for the reasons you would think. It's actually not very dirty, not very raunchy, not very lewd. It's boring. It's really boring.
it definitely don't watch this with your parents.
Like, yeah, if you're uncomfortable with sexuality, yeah, maybe steer away from this one. But like, honestly, they don't show balls. They don't show dick.
It's still a Hollywood. It's still a Hollywood.
They only show
film.
They don't show vagina. They
It's
show
a
boobs.
Hollywood version.
I mean, it's I'm not saying it has to be graphic or anything. I'm just
I kind
saying
of preferred it not being.
for the reputation that this had, it was really tame. I mean, like,
it was kind of like boring.
yeah. It was like we've seen more graphic things on this channel.
Yeah.
Like, remember that Knocked Up?
Yeah, Knocked Up actually did show
A baby being born.
a
human
being
baby
born.
being
so,
born. That's why I'm saying,
But that
for this
was-
to have the reputation that it did when it came out in 2015 is kind of insane. But really the biggest problem with the film is that it's like a guy whose color palette is white and black, and a woman. I know. I was.
I see you were doing a joke, and I kind of.
No, it's good. No, that was funny. It's
Okay.
funny when you like. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. And then there's a woman that just her whole thing is she's like finding herself, I guess. It feels like the worst parts of Twilight without
Well,
any of the fun fantasy.
50 Shades of Grey is a Twilight fan fiction. And I did have a fun time watching this and being like, that's a similar plot line to Twilight. Like, seeing where the author of 50 Shades of Grey kind of like took inspiration from a different world. But like,
It's just so
that
boring.
was more fun than actually
It's like
watching the movie.
it's like, imagine if vampires and sexy werewolves were business dudes in suits.
And Mr. Grey, Christian Grey. First of all,
Such a forgettable
this
face.
actor,
I'm sorry,
we were
man.
almost convinced that like it was just a different
What was his name?
generic white guy in every different shot, because like every time it cut away
Who did
from
he
him,
look like?
both of us. Well, he looks like Dennis Quaid, but like
He looks like a more forgettable version
Jack Quaid.
of Jack Quaid.
but a more
Forgettable.
a forgettable version of him.
A very forgettable version of Jack Quaid. Like, you think, like, you look at him and you go, oh wait, no, that's not
Yeah.
him.
You go,
and
oh,
then
I think I remember him.
every angle, every lighting, it looks like a different actor.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, now hang on. I do want to. I feel like we're kind of hashing on it. I did give this 1.5
I only
bags
gave it one.
because there's a slight redeeming value. I'm going to say the scene I liked. There was exactly one scene that I felt like was really good and could probably be, honestly, a great short film on its own. Like, if it was like a 5-minute short film on Vimeo, I would love it. And that was when they signed the sex contract, because this scene was backlit with red lighting. So it was just blacks and reds. And they're sitting across from a very large meeting table, and they go over the very in-depth contract. Like, it's very formal, but they
Yeah.
talk about very lewd acts, like butt plugs off the table, and then it was like contract B-15, and that felt like a very interesting, businessification of romance.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good scene, and then they end up like doing it on the table or whatever. It's kind of fun, but
No,
like,
she goes home afterwards. That's like the whole point of it. Okay.
I don't even remember. It's such a good idea. Like, again, kind of drags on, but I like that moment. Whoa, what are
sorry.
you?
There's so many. Plot? Yeah. What were you gonna say though? Do you want to finish?
I was just gonna say in my general overall opinion. Just plot through it quick. So that's what I had to say. I liked that one scene where it's sort of that theme of deromanticizing love and being with someone. I thought that was really good, really powerful. The rest of this fucking melodramatic softcore wannabe porn sucks. And honestly, I thought it kind of painted the BDSM community in a very predatory and negative light. Like, it was not a very fetish positive film. It was very creepy. I think
a lot of the issues with this plot of the film are that, like, it takes way too long to get going, and, like, I don't even know what happens in the beginning. And then once it does, you're like, oh, this is just, like, kind of glorified abuse.
Yeah.
Like, they don't play it off. Like, there are people who can enjoy...
They talk about real things, but they don't actually dive into anything.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh yeah, so I was a sub to my mom's friend for 7 years, from when I was like 15 to 21 or whatever, and now I'm a dom. And they don't ever really come back into that aspect, at least not in the first film. Because fun fact,
the first one.
There's 3 of these.
By the way, spoiler alert for 50 Shades of Grey, they don't even end up together in the end of the movie. So if you are even watching this for like a slightly satisfying ending, you will not be satisfied.
I think it's supposed to be like, she's tempted by him and then gets away. It's sort of her arc.
But then there's a second movie where there's a third movie where they get married.
How many books are there?
I don't know.
If it was 1 book, then this is insane. But if it's 3 books, maybe the first book is dumb.
I don't know, but it just kind of reads the wrong way. And also Dakota Johnson spends about like more than half of the film like
insanely horny.
Yeah.
The worst acting.
She spends like the first half of the film like really into him, and then like once it gets going into the plot, she's like clearly not really into that part of it. And so it's just like awkward. And you're like, does she even want to do this? Like, what's the vibe here? But
I do like when they do all
of that,
the extreme sports stuff, like skydiving and like flying plane.
See, I forgot about that.
Like, I just now remember they did that, because like that's like one of those things that's like not that could have been fun if they actually like drew upon that in the film, instead of just having like moments of romance broken up with like action scenes. They needed something for the guys being bored there, falling asleep.
That's actually true.
That's why I remember them, because I kind of was like laughing at the tonal shift mostly.
That's funny.
She's like, I don't want to go on that. I don't want to go on the plane. I don't want to go on the plane. And then she's like laughing, screaming, and he's like, oh well, yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, and he says, "Can you say the famous line?"
What was the famous line? Oh, here it is. Here's, "'Cause I'm 50 shades of fucked up."
that was honestly.
I can't believe that was a meme.
I won't lie. That was probably the hardest I laughed during this movie, was when he said that line. I mean, how could you not just cackle at that? At a man who is saying this in full sincerity.
100%. Like, it's so close to the name of the movie.
Yeah.
He might as well just said it.
I feel like that's a joke, because it's like 50, because his name is
Grey.
Christian Grey.
I know, but it's just like, they never get into the whole why is it called 50 Shades of Grey. So if it's presumed the line 50 Shades of Fucked Up.
Yeah, I think that's why.
Can we move on to the next film?
Yeah, anyways, one bagger, stinker of the week.
I gave it 1.5. There was some good cinematography. Like competent cinematography at times.
I just wish the shots of the outside were nice, but
there was some decent shots.
Everything was so gray.
I know, and that's what they were told. That's like what the job was. Don't blame the videographer, the cinematographer. They were just doing what their fucking gig wanted from them.
Anyways.
And they did it great. So 1.5.
Moving on.
But even they couldn't save that.
The
wreck.
rest of the movies we watched are animated, by the way.
Yeah, that's the theme. We watched a lot of animated films this week.
We were in an animated mood.
Over the span of 3 days.
Over the span of 3 days, we watched 5 animated films.
So.
Anyways, strap in for this week's animation.
I think that 50 Shades of Grey kind of taints like real movies for me for a second. Like I just needed something with color and brightness. So we watched Kung Fu Panda.
Yet another Jack Black film.
Honestly, I was kind of worried this would age bad because I remember loving this as a kid and I was like, Jack Black, China.
Yeah.
But it actually aged really, really well, and it's a good love letter to like martial art films from, old Hollywood.
Yeah. No, I agree. I had the same exact thought because the last time I saw this movie was probably in a movie theater, and when you're in a movie theater and when you're a child, everything is amazing. So I was like, oh no, but we watched it and it slayed. It was like a little bit silly, but it's an animated film for children.
But the fight scenes are really great.
It is really great, the fight scenes.
I remember
and there's a lot of heart in it too.
A lot of really good heart, and also it has a good like fat positive message. I remember thinking that as a kid because like I was a little bit chubby of a kid, and it's the big bear, he's a big fat guy. A lot of fat jokes about how he's plump, but then it like they don't ever have him lose that central character. They just learn how to like work with it.
Yeah, he uses it.
Yeah, and I thought it was like DreamWorks again, hot off the tail of Shrek, hot off the tails of Shrek 2. They kind of killed this,
Yeah.
There's a reason there's a bunch of Kung Fu Panda movies. I don't know how good those ones are.
I don't remember. I
remember seeing the second one. So stay tuned for the inevitable reviews of those.
Oh my god.
But this one was great. Yeah, 4 bags.
Yeah, this one I don't have much to say about it besides like some of it is more memorable than other parts of it.
Yeah, maybe a little bit slow at moments, but
yeah, like I think it takes a little bit to get into, but then once it gets going, it's like
we were
having a lot of fun with it.
Jack Black doesn't sing in it.
Yeah, Jack Black does not sing. Well, I guess that's true.
It's one of the few Jack Black films he doesn't sing in.
And Seth Rogen is in it. Yeah.
Not doing the full Seth Rogen right now.
Seth Rogen is in this. A lot of like Tobias.
Yeah, the cast is kind of stacked. We got Dustin Hoffman, Angelina Jolie, Jackie Chan, Seth Rogen, David Cross, other people.
Yeah, no, the cast is stacked. It kind of slays.
Tanya Hayden.
We were sort of talking about this when we were watching the movie. Like, this feels like one of those films in my brain where I switched over from like watching animated films and seeing the voices come out of the characters to when I like realized that it was a person doing the voice, and I think that's because of Jack Black.
Absolutely, because I remember watching School of Rock like right before watching Jack Black and making that connection and going, oh, that's the same. And then that sort of changed how I saw animated films.
Yeah.
And that's like good because, everyone eventually gets that. Although I do think there is credit to maintaining the illusion of having non-actors be voice characters. I'm all for that, but who cares what I think? Anyways, moving
good movie.
on.
We don't have much to say about it.
It's a good movie. You should watch it if you're feeling like an animated film.
Yeah, probably will make you like happy and remember your childhood.
Yeah.
And like make you hungry maybe.
Yeah, if you're feeling like a fun little kung fu movie that's again very silly, not too serious, because it's like.
Oh, and one thing I also wanted to mention though, the animation holds up for the most part, but the birds look terrifying, especially when they look right, like straight forward.
And I think they knew that at the time. Even I feel like they played on that.
They were because that one like little guy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, this next film came out in 2013. It was one that I skipped as a child because honestly, I don't even really remember the marketing for it. It just sort of came out, was out, and people either watched it or didn't. Monsters University.
Yeah, the last time I watched this film again was probably 2013. I watched this on the bus on the 8th grade DC trip. And we were also talking about this last night. Like, I was like, at first I thought, like, I was like, I remember that movie, like, being kind of good. But then as we were watching it, I was like, no, I kind of do remember this movie not being good at all. So what does that say about
this is one of those
society?
prequels
This is
that didn't need to happen. I
yeah.
don't think anyone really asked for it, and it's just gonna make you want to watch the original.
Yeah, it is. For those of you guys who don't know, Monsters University is it came out after Monsters Inc., but it's the prequel where they give backstory to how Mike and Sully
not
met
just
at Monsters
out
University.
after Monsters Inc. 12 years after Monsters Inc.
When did Monsters Inc. come out?
2001.
Okay, that slays.
So continue that thought. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It basically gives the backstory to how Mike and Sully met and how they got into scaring, which are not things that I questioned when I watched Monsters Inc. as a child, or things that I really wanted to know. And beyond that, it expands upon this world that I don't care about.
It expands on the world in the worst way.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Something that really struck me when I was watching this movie is that it feels like there was about 3 or 4 different plots that they really wanted to go with, that they kind of all just meshed into one overall general college plot. Within the first 30 minutes of the movie, they're already taking their final exam, and then there's this whole plot where they are in a fraternity competition to be the scariest scarers, but then there's also another thing that happens after that.
The worst part about this review is that while we were watching the film, after that second act, that second moment, you said, this is the part I always forget, so I'm going to pay attention. And then I made sure to pay attention too. And frankly, I can't even remember what happened. Because basically they just get banished from the monsters world, like in Monsters, Inc. And then they come back by...
No.
Scaring adults.
They get expelled because they cheated in the test. And then Mike is I'm going to go through the door, in Monsters, Inc. He goes through one of the doors and scares a bunch of humans.
Well, tries to.
And then
doesn't scare them. They call the cops on him.
Remember,
they're not terrified at all.
Get out.
So then Sully goes in to save him because he's not coming out, and then they close the door, and so
how
then
did they get out?
How they get out is by scaring the police officers, the real humans with guns that show up, and they scare them by doing ghost tricks and references to other horror movies, and then that terrifies them so much that the closet works again. I don't know.
But then they're still expelled.
Oh yeah, they're still expelled, and then the end of the movie just sort of is well, you guys did really good getting back, so I was able to get you guys jobs. Or no.
I don't even know.
They don't even get jobs. They just they end up
jobs
moving
in
in
the mail
together,
room.
and they look at the newspaper and see that they're hiring for the mailroom, and then they just start their way in the mailroom, and I guess they work their way up.
If you were wondering how they got their jobs,
how they got
scarers,
to be number one scarers on the scare floor,
we
don't
really
get there.
Explain it.
They don't say they got an
Besides,
internship or
yeah,
they don't even talk about that boss from the first film.
You can kind of infer in different ways that Mike is a good student and Sully is a natural scarer, whatever.
I feel like we should give a little bit of context now because people are probably wise. Yes, we did in fact watch the original Monsters Inc. right after the fact.
Of course we did.
We had to. This made us want to.
It was 2 a.m. when we finished this movie. And we said...
yeah, time for the original.
I can't go to bed with this as the last picture in my mind.
This sequel, Monsters University, it has such a fundamental misunderstanding of what made the original Monsters Incorporated really good. It wasn't the characters, it wasn't the voice actors. It was the play on the energy crisis, this are we the monsters? It's had this sort of fun.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that the original Monsters Inc. was great because it was sort of a play on corporate America. It was a critique of business and greed and energy renewal and that type of thing. And then this film just takes none of that, and it's just like,
doesn't do anything
what
with
if
that.
those like factory workers were actually like sports stars and had their own baseball cards?
Oh yeah. Another thing, like, that's all, like, that's really interesting, especially now watching it like as a grown up. Like, that you can get so much out of Monsters Inc. to this day.
Well, because the original Pixar films are great.
Yeah.
WALL-E, Up,
Yeah.
Incredibles.
You can't really get a lot out of Monsters University. And
There's
another thing that
nothing to get out of
really,
it.
like, another thing I feel like that they don't understand is, like, people like the dynamic of Mike and Sully, like, being friends. They're kind of like an interesting duo. And in this movie, they kind of hate each other, like,
90% of the
whole
film.
time. And they don't have any kind of, like, build up or, like, because I would get it if they had, like, some kind of beef and then they, like, became friends and that it was the story of that. But it's not really the story of that because they just hate each other, like, the whole time. There's, like, 3 minutes where they're not, like, annoyed with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like...
Then they just work in the mailroom together for some reason.
Yeah, at the end, even when, like, Sully is, like, proud of Mike for, like, doing the best scream, he was, like, cheating, so he wasn't even proud of him.
It's just the main problem with this film in terms of plot was that they didn't have an idea and stick with it. They had a bunch of different ideas and just were like, fuck it, it's a kids movie, let's just make a college thing. It's like gonna be like Animal House but PG.
Yeah.
Kind of. And they just sort of tried to do everything, and that's what was the undoing.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest undoing was not knowing what Monsters Inc. means.
Yeah.
They took a lot of those familiar things and then just was like, part of the appeal of Monsters Inc. is the fact that all the background characters are these crazy, weird monsters. Like in the first film, this girlfriend is like Medusa and there's like a giant dinosaur. This film, all the background actors are basically minions. They're just like soft, squishy, cute little things because they can't be gross.
They kind of overdo the, like, jockey monsters because, like, there's obviously, like, Mike and Sully aren't, like, in, like, the main fraternity, so, like, there's, like, those guys, and then everybody else looks
they just look like a square rectangle with some eyes or something.
And we even, like,
and they recycle them too. They just color swap.
We noticed pretty much right away, like, a lot of the background, there's a
and
lot of
they try to do a lot
background.
of they try to do a lot of big party scenes and big, like, football game events, and, like, I get what there's going for, but the thing is they don't use any of the unique characters to sparse it up.
So
they
it just
keep
ends
all
up
these
looking
unique
really
characters
flat.
for their I was gonna say they keep all these unique characters for their one-off bits. Like they had this guy who's like the little slime, and then the medium slime, and then the big slime, but they only show that for, like, when they're playing football.
Oh yeah.
They never appear in the backgrounds.
Yeah.
And there's just such a lack of, like, passion in this film. It's so soulless. It's just it's insane too because the original Monsters Inc. has such passion in it.
I will say, like, I said this when we were watching it, there's, like, these girls, like, there's, like, a bunch of them that all look exactly the same, and they, like, have, like, a little skirt and, like, fuzzy leg warmers on, and they kind of slayed. I just wanted to shout them out, I guess, because they did slay, and they did catch my eye, but beyond that, like, I can't really picture a lot of the other background characters in this, which is, like, when you think Monsters Inc., there's so many different characters that you can think about, even
though it came out in, like, 2001 and the backgrounds are so empty in Monsters Inc., it's noticeable. They still were able to make it feel more populated and more real than Monsters University.
Yeah, it feels like a real thing rather
because
than,
they have like unique looking characters for each scene.
Anyways, I give it 2 bags.
Ditto. That's a 2-bagger.
I didn't like it.
Now, Monsters Inc., on the other hand, 5-bagger. I don't really have much else to say other than it aged flawlessly. Some of the CG looks a little bit creepy.
It's a little bit.
But that's to be expected with the early Pixar. They know that, and they worked within that limitation pretty damn well.
Going also from watching Monsters University to watching Monsters Inc., like the upgrades in the like CGI of like Mike and Sully's characters are like very noticeable. Like in Monsters University, like Mike just like looks very like
they're very
plasticky and soft or not like
like they're made to be easier on the eye. They're softened.
Yeah, he looks very soft.
Less textural.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like, he has less of a texture to him. And this one, like, you can, like, notice all of the textures on him. And, like, again, like, I think that's also just because we went, like, directly to watching it. That I noticed a lot of the differences. But I think, yeah, like, most of the characters, like, their weird CGI kind of plays into it. And obviously we love Boo, and the whole film just works. It has a better pacing. Okay, well, we'll move on. I'm getting the time notice. Anyways, we loved Monsters Inc. We did not like Monsters University.
Yeah, Monsters Inc. it's a classic. I mean, really,
if you
what
haven't
else?
seen it, like, what are you?
Seen Monsters
If
Inc.
you haven't seen Monsters Inc.,
I don't think you're
get
old
out of here.
Yeah, you're not old enough to be listening to this if you haven't seen Monsters Inc.
Yeah,
like,
I literally cried. Go
back to kindergarten.
Yeah.
Finish a juice box.
Yeah.
Go give your mom her iPad back because you shouldn't be on the internet.
Yeah,
okay?
no, for real.
Stay offline until
Go
you're
on
about
Disney
12.
Plus and watch.
12 is the
Inc.
youngest you can be on the internet, is my opinion. Maybe 15.
Yeah, that's so true. No. Anyways, moving on.
Speaking of people who are criminally online, we want to talk about the Tumblr sexy man.
This is
the Lorax, not the Lorax himself. The Thneed man, the Wounsler. The Ounsler.
We had basically the exact same situation happen to us 2 nights in a row, where we watched
the remake,
the
sequel, and then we say we gotta watch the original. Now, granted, the original is only a 25-minute cartoon because Dr. Seuss knew his cartoons were for kids. He didn't need to make an 86-minute feature, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll get to that.
Okay, yeah.
In terms of the
we watched
Illumination,
the 2012 Illumination Lorax.
3D animated.
Starring
Danny DeVito,
Ed Helms, Zac Efron, Taylor Swift. Anyways, this is a movie.
It was certainly...
The thing I want to say about this movie is that, like, it is fun. Like, it is so brightly colored and so atmospheric that in I don't know, like,
is that the point of the Lorax?
No,
though?
but it was fun to look at, and there is music in it, which didn't really slay, but I appreciated that they tried. Actually, okay, I did lie. I liked the one song, you know, I like, how bad can I be? That song slays.
If you're a frequent listener, you know my opinions on Illumination, but I will say I don't think they dropped the ball this hard. Obviously, I still think the 2D original one is better, but Danny DeVito's voice, like his voice work for the Lorax, actually kind of killed. And if they didn't add all that stupid extra plot with Thneedville and O'Hare, the air salesman, and if they just didn't have all that, honestly, it'd probably be a 5-4 bagger.
Yeah, I think a lot of what makes this movie like a feature-length movie rather than like 30 minutes is that they add a lot of extra plot.
Just like Horton Hears a Who.
We spoke about this earlier with the Dr. Seuss lore, that they really just went off on a tangent on this one. They built a whole world where O'Hare, the man, sells air.
Yeah, they build this fictional Thneedville, and they have this like romance plot with the main boy where he wants to, you know, get with Taylor Swift.
There's just a lot more, and I do appreciate them.
Actually, I think it kind of undervalues the whole original meaning of the film, because the kid isn't trying to get the tree for his own self. He's not trying to learn about trees because he's curious. He's trying to impress a girl because he's like horny.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like that whole like plot line of like him having to like escape his town to like go talk to the Wounsler, like, I don't know, didn't need to be in there, but they had to do what they had to do to like get it moving. I think.
You think?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I feel like I would have liked to actually spend more time with the Wounsler than we do, because it just kind of feels like
Yeah, they flesh out the world of the Lorax in like the worst way because actually I already said that.
Oh.
They flesh out the world of the Lorax in a very bad way because they just sort of focus on this dystopian future after the Onslers cut down everything rather than focusing on the Onceler himself, which is kind of insane because who really cares about the world that the boy like who's asking to see his mom and grandma do a little fun disco dance? Like,
like there's a lot of like
you don't even see the Lorax for those parts.
Yeah.
He's they don't know what the Lorax is. They've never met him.
Yeah, it feels like kind of two simultaneous plots, and like there's not really a strong enough connection besides like the main boy. Okay. One of the things that really like kind of jump scared me was the Onceler. Like I knew that people on Tumblr like really thirsted after this man, and like okay, like when you look at him on the screen, he's like obviously kind of very tall and like has long legs and it's like kind of giving Timothée Chalamet if you squint, you know. However, him being voiced by Ed Helms, aka Andy from The Office, that was the only thing I could think about when I looked at him. Yeah, it was literally like, just Andy from The Office talking at me and I was like, why has nobody ever like prepared me for this moment? Because it really scared me.
Unlike how Jack Black was able to embody the character of Po from Kung Fu Panda, or Ed Helms sort of just is Ed Helms, and you kind of just see the character as Ed Helms, and you go, oh, that's Andy Office. And everything he says, all the lyrics in every song he sings, it's just Andy from Office.
Yeah.
Now, compare that to the original Onceler.
The original Onceler has
such a good voice. That is like the inverse property here with the Lorax, where the original Lorax voice kind of doesn't really fit too well.
Yeah, but
whereas Danny DeVito fits really, really good.
And I have to say, the Illumination Lorax is objectively so much cuter than the
that's the Illumination guarantee.
Yeah, they minionified him, and
you love Minions.
This was the thing where like I went when we watched the original Lorax. I was like, oh, he's kind of scrungly, like he's kind of.
This is just one of those films that everyone agrees upon the rating. We're gonna say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3.
2 stars.
See, it's just everyone kind of agrees that this is kind of a 3-bagger. It's such a middle of the road kind of like.
I don't know. And this isn't to say that I didn't have fun watching it. Like we watched this. My friend Rose was here. We all like had a moment where we were watching this and like we were enjoying ourselves. But at the end of the day, was it a good movie? No. I don't know. Like something about it is just like not.
I thought this was a little bit better than Horton Hears a Who.
It was better than... Okay, I'll give you that. It was better.
That's why I rated it 3 stars.
I rated Horton Hears a Who 1 star, though.
I gave Horton Hears a Who 2.
Okay, so we're on the same page.
I'm a little bit more impartial.
Your star ratings are a little bit inflated, I think.
But sometimes I'm a little bit more critical when things drop the ball. In this it didn't have... It was the message of plant a tree, save the earth. And it said, plant a tree, save the earth. Also, so you know what? Fine. Good job, 3 bags.
This is just like a plot line issue that I have with both movies and maybe even Dr. Seuss himself. I haven't read the book in a while. Why does the Onceler just hold on to the last seed instead of planting it? And don't tell me, oh, it's because he's like up in that tower.
He's guilty. He feels bad. That's how I always interpreted it.
Okay, so why wouldn't he... If he feels so guilty and he feels so bad, why doesn't he go out and do something about it? Why doesn't he pick up, like... If he feels so guilty and he feels so bad about it, why doesn't he, like, go and do something about it? Like, why doesn't he go replant the tree? Also...
There was a reason we don't love the man himself.
Well, like... He like got canceled.
He's dead.
Canceled. I'm doing air quotes here. Like if you guys remember the whole Dr. Seuss debacle, which I don't know if we like even have the.
I don't think we got the
brain power to comment on. But
we don't got the airtime for that.
We will both say that
we'll have to get into more of the why Dr. Seuss was canceled next time. But for now, I think we'll just talk about the.
We just say.
Oh yeah.
He was.
He's people from the past might not be able to uphold the same standards of today. That's probably the best.
I was just gonna say, shout out Dr. Seuss.
Shout out Dr. Seuss. I love him. He made my childhood.
Yeah, I was just...
The original Lorax animated film, which I believe he had a part. Yeah, look, he was a producer.
Yeah.
He was a producer of the original animated ones. And you can tell. And it's that passion was there. You know, same with the original Grinch.
Yeah, the original Lorax just has like a certain quality to it, and I don't know if that quality is quite literally just nostalgia, but it's just better. Like, it's just made better, and like when you watch it, you're like, okay, yeah, like obviously the 2D animation style, very bare bones animation style, is not like objectively like the best to look at. The 2D animation style of it is like a little bit outdated. I still feel like they do a lot of really fun things with the animation. And like they don't, like, one of the biggest like points of this movie is that they don't actually show the Onceler's face at all. Did you want to chat about that?
Yeah, I thought the fact they don't show the original Onceler's face was like always resonated with me a lot as a kid. I was kind of always disturbed by that.
Yeah.
Because it's just like appendages coming from off screen. But honestly, I have such a respect for it. It actually kind of has been shaping how I've been thinking of framing my own work. But that's neither here nor there. In terms of the message I was able to get at that, it was, I always kind of could put other faces onto the Onceler. It could be a business, could be you, could be your boss, you know, it could be your neighbor. It's mankind, you know. Whereas in the Illumination version, it's Ed Helms.
Yeah.
Ed Helms is bad guy.
Yeah.
It's not...
The Illumination version doesn't, like, do a good job of making him the villain.
Why show his face? Why make him a young, attractive guy who plays guitar?
Yeah.
When he's supposed to be, I could give you $1 and go fuck off. And he, like, taps his cigarette. Like, come on. Or not a cigarette, his cigar.
Yeah, I think that was going back to the 3D animated, going back to the 3D animated Lorax. Like, the Onceler has this like whole plot line where he like shows up and he like meets the Grinch, and the Grinch is like, hey, don't cut down the trees. And then the Onceler's like, okay, I like promise I'll never cut down any of the trees. And then they're like nice for a little bit and they like hang out. Do you remember he like makes them breakfast? And then like that's fun, but that's like not the Onceler, you know? The Onceler like wouldn't think twice about that or really care, and I feel like they just like don't do a good job of like just making the villain a villain, because there's another villain, which is Mr. O'Hare, who is selling air to the other people that live in the town without trees, because there's no trees, they can't breathe.
He's such a more boring cartoonified villain.
Yeah.
And it's like he does the same message, so it's like, again, fine, but just so much less impactful, so much more of a joke rather than a villain. And
also, I don't think they played up the Thneed enough in the 3D animated one either. The way that Ed Helms kind of markets the Thneed is quite literally like, he's like...
In the 2D Dr. Seuss's, they have a ton of rhyming words, like, you could put it in your locket, you could put it in the stocking, you could put it in a book,
yeah.
And then, like, Ed Helms is like, you could put it out of your hat, you could wear, like, a scarf, you could clean up the dirt with it, you could soak water up with it.
Two of the things that he recommends you do with the Thneed are wipe up dirt and soak up water. That's a rag, sir. Like, you made a rag. A Thneed is a Thneed. It's a thing that everyone needs. You're not giving me enough needing for it. And I think that also goes just back to like the Lorax, because they flushed out the whole world of this book. Because they flushed out the whole world of this book that Dr. Seuss wrote. They, you know, are taking a lot of creative liberties with the dialogue and whatnot, and they lose a lot of the rhythm and the rhyme. And I think that is what really like takes a lot of the heart away from the story as a whole. I think Dr. Seuss stories need to be told with a specific rhythm and rhyme, and this one was not.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say on the Lorax?
No, not really.
Okay, how many bags?
I gave the original one 2 bags and the
the remake
1972 one 4 bags.
Okay, yeah, I gave the original one 4 bags, and then I gave the Illumination version 3 bags.
Yeah. And that's all the movies we watched this week.
Yeah, that's it. We've really been playing a lot of Zelda. We have 2 different saves going, and I do plan on playing Zelda the second we hang up. So
hang up.
Stop our time on air tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome for watching.
You're welcome for our movie reviews.
Thank you for listening. Once again, if you have anything to comment it down below. And check us out on all of our other social medias.
Yeah, if you want to see our Letterboxd list.
Yeah, check that out.
Otherwise, we'll see you next week when we talk about more movies.
We talk about more movies. Goodbye.
Take it easy.
Good night.
Good night.